They came in like a freight train at midnight, snouts to the dirt, hooves pounding through rows of corn, a living bulldozer tearing apart a season's worth of sweat and hope. If you've ever driven through rural Tennessee at dawn after a hard rain and felt that hollow pit in your stomach, you know exactly what I mean. Wild hogs, feral pigs. Feral hogs, call them what you want, are not just a nuisance. They're an economic wrecking ball for American farms, a threat to water, livestock, and every field that feeds a family or fills a grocery aisle. This story is about one harvest season when our community decided enough was enough, how we rallied, why it matters to the whole country, and what actually works when the invaders come knocking. Every November, the Tennessee River Valley should be all harvest buzz and tractor glow. But this year, the buzz was panic. Night after night, herds of wild hogs stampeded across fields, trampling corn that was due to go to market, ruining the work of months and leaving families reeling. These animals don't just nibble a little. They root up topsoil, pollute water sources, stress cattle and poultry, spread disease, and push small family farms toward bankruptcy. The USDA and state reports put annual damages in the hundreds of millions, and many experts believe the real number is much higher when you account for lost yield, increased labor, and the ripple effect through rural economies. Seeing that destruction lit a fire in me. I wasn't about to stand by and watch neighbors lose their livelihood. So I joined forces with local hunters and landowners to fight back, not for glory, but to protect the people who put food on our tables. We formed a grassroots response team and hit the fields at first light. ATVs warmed up, hunting dogs strained at the leash, and radios crackled as we moved into the worst-hit patches. The first encounter came fast, a massive boar barreling out of the brush like a runaway truck. It charged hard, and only precise shooting and teamwork kept it from trampling one of our crew. That kind of danger is real. Wild hogs can weigh hundreds of pounds, run at surprising speed, and, when cornered, become aggressive. But the bigger problem is their reproductive power. Sows can produce huge litters, from a dozen piglets to numbers that make population control feel like bailing a sinking ship with a teacup. That's why every effective response needs to be relentless, coordinated, and smart. We relied on good hounds, precise shots, and local knowledge. Where the hogs fed, where the low ground held water, which creek crossings funneled travel routes. In one intense sweep, a pack led by a monstrous 330-pound alpha crashed through the corn. And in the chaos, our team chipped away at the group until the threat eased. Moments like that proved the point. Community action works. But we also talk strategy around a small campfire between shifts. Hunting has immediate impact, yet it isn't the only tool. Giant trap nets and corral-style metal cages can capture whole sounders humanely and are essential for people who don't hunt or where hunting isn't feasible. Those methods allow landowners to remove large numbers at once, and when paired with targeted trapping, they reduce the breeding base more effectively than shooting alone. The stakes go beyond property damage. Wild hogs carry and can spread dangerous pathogens. African swine fever being the specter that keeps veterinarians awake, which could devastate commercial swine operations if it spreads. Their rooting destroys habitat for native plants and animals, undermines soil health, and accelerates erosion. Scientists warn that unchecked feral hog populations alter local ecosystems, reducing forage for deer and ground nesting birds, and changing nutrient cycles in a way that favors invasive plants. That cascade of consequences turns a local nuisance into a national problem. Loss of biodiversity, threats to biosecurity, and higher food prices when farms lose productivity. Still, there are smarter, kinder ways to fight back. We tested large corral traps on one property and hauled off a dozen hogs in a single night without firing a shot. Hunters partnered with wildlife biologists to map hotspots and time interventions for when sows and piglets were most vulnerable. Local authorities backed coordinated operations because solo efforts only push hogs into neighboring fields. Education mattered too, showing skeptical neighbors that control measures protect livestock, prevent disease, and preserve hunting opportunities for native game species help build support. Once the community saw fewer hogs, more birds returning, and fields rebounding, attitudes shifted from leave them be to how can we help. Not every mission ended cleanly. We chased one clever sounder across a ravaged valley and came up with only a few stragglers in the daylight, a blunt reminder that this is a long fight, not a single victory. Weather, terrain, and the hog's nocturnal habits all favor the invaders. Nighttime is prime time for them. They move in large groups under cover of darkness, browsing while visibility is low. That's why many of our operations were nocturnal or pre-dawn, using thermal optics and coordinated positions to minimize risk. The key is aiming true, acting fast, and always prioritizing safety for people and dogs. When the sun rose after those long shifts, we'd often climb a ridge and see the damage to a neighbor's field, the visual proof that our work mattered. Every success told the same story. Community, science, and multiple tools beat the hogs. For example, when we combined trapping with targeted shooting in a hotspot near the river, numbers plunged within weeks. Native vegetation began to re-establish, and runoff into streams improved. Small signs, but real ones.
If you'll enjoy this video, please like and subscribe my channel for more information.